Jess for Heather.
Go for Heather.
Can you switch to two?
Switching. Hey, I'm Heather.
And I'm Jess.
We're two multi-hyphenate creatives figuring it out in real time.
From on-set and in the studio to deadlines, pivots, side hustles, and starting over.
We talk about the messy, brilliant, behind-the-scenes reality of working in production, broadcast content, and everything in between.
Tune in for fresh tea, hot takes, industry guests, and the occasional chaos.
This is Switching to, the side channel for creative conversations.
We're glad you're here.
All right, we're on two.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Jess.
Welcome to the pod.
Welcome to the pod. Can I welcome you and you welcome me? Is that how this works?
Welcome me. Welcome me.
Welcome to the pod, Jess.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here today. I'm excited to be here today because we have somebody on today that is a person I've known for a long time, and also somebody that is a mentor to me. Absolutely. Her name is Thresa Richardson. She is a multi-hyphenated creative force whose career spans acting, writing, directing, producing, radio, and music. She's been involved in a lot of things. She's been immersed in the arts since childhood, from piano and choir to professional training in Hollywood. Over the years, she's worked as an actress and lifestyle model, session vocalist, advice columnist, radio personality, filmmaker, and children's book author. Her work ethic was forged in indie productions, where wearing every hat taught her to be fearless and resourceful. She's written screenplays, published children's books, directed short films, and is now developing feature films. As a radio host, Afternoon Tea, she became known for her wit, adaptability, and connection with audiences. Through every pivot, auditions, rejection letters, stunts, singing backup for a hair metal band, or producing documentaries, Tea has embodied resilience, creativity, and joy. She's proof that a career doesn't have to be linear, and that owning your identity as a multi-hyphenate, slightly caffeinated artist can lead to a life of constant reinvention.
Tea is truly a force. Like, she is the epitome of multi-hyphenate for sure. And I think just as such an inspiration to, you know, just do all of the things. Like, you don't have to limit yourself. And you can be so many different things and have different facets of your career and just keep going.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how luck isn't always luck. It's hard work. And we're going to talk about fearlessness. We're going to talk about vertical productions.
Yes. We are going to chat with her she just came back from a very exciting trip that we're going to chat with her about as well.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the podcast, Thresa Richardson, better known as T in my world.
Yes.
But
Welcome.
Yes, which is, as I say to everybody, it's easier because I'm a walking, talking typo. If you go to look my name up, and it's just easier to say T. So I love that. That's how you know me.
yeah, it's really hard to say your full name because I've known you for, 12, 13 years as T.
Yes.
So
yes. And it's usually a salesperson that calls me and asks for me by name. So that's my friends.
That's how you know. I tell people
That's
that
how
too.
I know.
I'm like, my friends call me Jess. My government name and my I'm in trouble name is Jessica.
Yes.
And then someone
Yes.
is like not part of the inner circle. You're like, wait, who is this?
Yes. Well, T, we're so happy to have you on the podcast today. And before we get started, I'm so excited for all the things that we're going to talk about, but I'd love for you to give a brief introduction about who you are.
I tell everyone it's exactly what's on my business card. I'm multi-hyphenated, slightly caffeinated, because I've been in a creative world from the time I was a kid. And I started with acting and singing, and went into production and animation production first, television production. And then years later, kind of gravitated towards some other things. You know me from radio, being on microphone, Afternoon Tea, radio personality. And then I continued in production and got involved in music videos. And I'm super proud to be a woman of a certain age who got 2 feature films, pushed out into the world, my other children. And I'm also continuing on as an actress. So I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of things. I work really hard to do them well. But so yeah, multi-hyphenated, slightly caffeinated, in all things creative.
I love that tagline. Multi-hyphenated,
So cute.
slightly
Your
caffeinated.
branding is so
Yes.
spot on, which
Thank
is
you.
it's great.
And we're
Thank
gonna
you.
talk about your branding in a little bit because it is so good. But I wanna start with your most recent project. You just got back from China,
I
and I
did
s
2 weeks in China.
yes, and I saw your post on Instagram. I think a lot of people saw your post, and a lot of people were really excited for you. There were a lot of likes, a lot of comments, and I couldn't wait to talk to you about this project. Can you just
Yeah,
tell us.
I'm super happy to tell you what it was, why I went. And I actually had a meeting today with an actress who said to me, "What exactly did you do and how do I get involved?" As an actress, I've done stage, I've done musicals, I've done television commercials, is sort of how I reintroduced myself back to the acting world. When I was young and you wanted a casting call at the time, a cattle call, they called it, when you'd want a petite brown eyed brunette, 50,000 of us, me and my doppelgangers, would show up for it. And that became very frustrating for me as an actress. So I kind of veered into production and doing other things because I just wasn't going to keep beating my head against a wall and earn just enough money to have, well, ramen used to be cheap when I was young. Now it's fancy, but I used to buy a case of ramen for $5 and I earned enough money to do that. So when my hair turned white, I had already been doing stage and musicals and whatnot, and I was encouraged to go back to acting. So I was doing a lot of commercials. I was doing a lot of indie films. And a handful of years ago, my manager said, "Hey, I'm going to send you out on something. It's a $4 billion industry in China and in South America and these other markets. I'd love for you to go out and try." They're dishy, they're soapy, they're nighttime television crazy where people are smacking one another and the storylines are someone's, went with his sister and their meddling mother just wanted the baby. They're crazy, crazy soap opera storylines, but they're vertical dramas. And when people say, "What exactly is that?" I say, well, it's sort of like Hulu in your hand. You don't have to watch it frozen to your television set. You don't, but the industry's changing, by the way, but you can watch it on your phone.
I
They're serialized.
I see ads on TikTok all the
Yeah.
time, and I see
Yeah.
ripped ones on TikTok, and I fall into the hole of like, well, I
Yeah.
want to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
watching this.
Yes. And they're cliffhangers. Back in the day when film was first a thing, everybody made fun of it. "Oh, no, this is horrible and it's going to kill live theater." And they were serialized. And you would go and then you'd see the end where the cowboy's hanging off the cliff and you'd have to come back in a few days. And they hooked you with that cliffhanger. And that is what these are. And they make advertisers very happy because print magazines and newspapers have sort of gone away. Marketing people realize that people just zip past ads or click off on their computer, et cetera, or they zone out and go to another device. These are advertisement driven. If you don't want to pay, and people do, man, they do pay tremendous amounts to watch these programs that are broken up into anywhere from 1 to 5 minute episodes. You watch a handful of ads and then you can watch content for free. So they are they're an interesting world in that they're shot literally vertically. This is your framing, typically 2 to 3 cameras, but the business is changing. America is getting involved. And if you Google vertical drama and look for news, you'll find articles in Rolling Stone, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Forbes, and Bloomberg have started reporting on vertical dramas because they are, first of all, so popular, money makers, and where a lot of people, they look at it and go, it's the wicked stepchild of film and television. Well, so were the movies when they first started. Everyone thought it was a horrible, horrible, shameful thing. And I've had a blast. And going to China, I went for 2 weeks. It was a Chinese production company. I could not have asked for a better situation. I was treated like I was the artist I believe myself to be. I've worked very hard to do and be who I am, but I also work very hard. And today, the person I was speaking to, I said something about 12-hour days without overtime, and she went, "Well, I don't want to work that." I don't want to work 12-hour days. And I go, well, then this probably isn't the world for you. You have to be willing to have a very serious mindset. You have to have a very serious work ethic. And the film crews that I've worked with, they're graduates from USC Film School, Chapman University, San Francisco. They're very serious about what they're doing, but with a sense of humor. And you have to kind of come at that as an artist too. You have to come into it saying, yeah, there's going to be some mudslinging. I got cake thrown at me this last time because my character was, humiliated. But what I love about them, for the most part, there's a handful, I've seen them, but for the most part, I've done about 14 of these. The bad guys, in the end, do not prevail. The good guys, if they don't win, they learn a lesson. And you cheer for the people that you perceive to be the good guy or the noble person or the person with a deep moral center. And I'm not going to lie, the ladies love the men with their shirts off, playing the alpha werewolves and whatever else, and gorgeous, settings and homes and clothing. It's very much like in the I'm going to go back even further, not just the 70s and 80s late night television where it was Nolan Miller gowns and everyone was dressed in Halston. But going back even further, when film was, you'd go to the movies and you wouldn't have enough money to barely get in because of the Great Depression, but you watched as movie stars would glide across the screen in beautiful Rolls Royce and gowns and drinking champagne and having martinis and living this high life. And I feel like that's a lot of what people now, life is tough. The world is a dumpster fire. But look, I get to watch people wear beautiful clothes in big mansions and kind of fantasize. So that, in a very large nutshell, is what a vertical is.
Yeah, verticals are so cool. I mean, I was just like, and they're making a lot of gear. I was on DJI's website this morning, and they were like literally a lot of the drones are set up to film vertical, whether it's for social media or, vertical dramas. Sorry, Heather, were you gonna?
I have questions. Okay, so you go to China to film this vertical.
Yes.
I assume it's in English, and is this for an Asian market or is this for US market?
It's for around the world. And yes, many of them are subtitled for whatever market they're going to. Yes, it was English. The actors, by the way, were from all over. The antagonist is this lovely woman who is British, but she's been living in Istanbul for the last, I believe she said 20. And they brought her in from Turkey. And there was another gentleman he's originally French. He's living in Seoul, Korea. They brought him in. They brought in a phenomenal actress that I've worked with before from the United States, and another actress who playing my adopted daughter, also from the US. But talent came from everywhere. It's an international production with a Chinese production company. The parent company was ByteDance, who owns TikTok. The production company was brought in by them and another company. Their name escapes me at the moment. But I tell everyone, I flew 20 some hours there and 20 some hours back. And I could have been filming in Duarte. I could have been down in Torrance. I never saw anything except the hotel, the inside of a car, a sound stage, a location, a car, a hotel for the entire time I was there. My other actor friends who weren't on every page of a 94-page script, they had days to go see the Great Wall and the Forbidden City. And I mean, they had a blast. I'll go again. I know this is not my last visit, and I was told that. And I look forward to returning and going anywhere else they film.
That's so cool.
That's something I tell people now. I've been doing a lot of traveling this year. I've been working on some projects with Heather, and we've been doing a lot of traveling. And I had somebody the other day ask me, they're like, oh my gosh, we were in Toronto. I went to Toronto and Heather had another job. So it was me and this other crew. And this person texted me and they're like, how was Toronto? And I was like, I saw the job site.
Yeah, airport. It's airports.
And Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
That is and the hotel.
Like
My
I
husband
didn't
and I, yeah, you don't get
explore.
a chance. When you're
No.
working, it is literally nose to the
Yeah.
grindstone. And my husband and I did a visit Napa spot, and I never saw Napa. I saw the inside of my car. I saw the location. I didn't even get a
Yeah.
real glass of wine. And I had Taco Bell for dinner because we didn't wrap till 10 p.m. and nothing was open. And I never saw Napa, but I'm representing Napa, and
Yeah.
everyone else should visit Napa.
Yeah. So interesting. Are
But,
you a vertical celebrity T? Is that what I'm hearing?
oh man, you know, that would be so glorious to be known for this new art form. I actually would be very happy to rep that. I am in one of the most popular verticals on Drama Box, which is a very large platform. And we were number one for months
What's the film
and
called?
months. It's called The Long Lost Heiress's Return. And my husband likes to say that my character was Liam Neeson in a skirt. I was looking for my long lost daughter. She didn't know who she was. And I was willing to kick some booty to make it happen. And no one was going to humiliate my daughter once I showed up on the scene. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful, fun, crazy, silly, lots of, again, slapping, smacking, humiliation. But when it all came down to brass tacks, spoiler alert, the good guys won. And it's currently over 200 million views right now. I believe 205 every couple of days. I check, and it's up a million. And I'm on a couple of other titles on Drama Box, and I'm on a lot of different platforms, apps.
Yeah.
Flare Flow is another one. It's a brand new one that merged with Serial Plus, Real Shorts. I mean, a lot of different ones. So I don't know if I'm a celebrity, but I know that I work hard, and my face is in a lot of places.
200 million is
That's so, I'm like trying to do math in my head
impressive.
going, okay, so, because I know different ones when it first kind of was coming on the scene, you paid for tokens or something, or you paid per, but maybe now it's more subscription based, or
it's both. It's token, subscription, and ad based. You can do any or all three, and people often get frustrated, and then next thing you know, they're buying the tokens to see the thing. And a lot of people I have heard from, fans, who cut the cord with their television, and they're doing this. And so again, if you go into your search engine and you put vertical drama and look at the news, you'll also see there are a couple of brand new reports that some American production companies, yes, Netflix, but Netflix is they're cutting their current IP to match a vertical format so you can watch Netflix in your hand. But there are production companies that are now here in America saying, hey, we want to be a part of this. And all of the apps, for the most part, many that I work for, they're now not just shooting vertically, they are also shooting horizontally, because they are going to eventually roll out so you can see it on your iPad or your computer and ultimately on your television set. So they're going to grow it and build it. And again, I'm happy to be a part of this brand new medium, in a medium that has really been struggling. I have so many friends above the line, below the line, who are looking for work, looking for projects to be creative. And just like the Duplass brothers are known for, they're like, you know what? Go out and make stuff. Go out and do stuff. But the problem is you don't have everybody who's willing. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to put in the 12-hour, 14-hour, 16-hour day. And it's like, you know, if you build it, I think Quibi was on the right path, but too soon. I think what's happening now is people are getting a little amuse-bouche. They're getting a little appetizer of what this is. And this is the way to grow something. Here, taste this. Do you like it? Oh, it's good. All right, let me make you something else. Oh, you liked that? Let me try to make a main dish now. And so I think it'll grow like that.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a huge, I mean, it's already huge, 200 million.
It's already huge.
200 million. Like think about a venue. Think about Think about a venue that 200 million people can sit in. Like, I dare you.
I can't even comprehend that.
And T, I want to talk about hard work, because you are one of the hardest workers I know. Whatever anybody asks, whenever you are on a project, whether you're a volunteer or you're working on it, or I mean, you helped me for over a year on a passion project that all culminated and it was into this amazing event, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I just whenever I think of you, I think of a hard worker.
Thank
And
you.
I think we were talking the other day about how you had posted about this Instagram post. You had this Instagram post about your project and you were going to China, and somebody posted that you were lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. I read that and I went, oh man, this is one of those moments where you want to respond and go, that's cute that you think that, but I've worked hard for this. I am lucky in that, again, that famous phrase, luck is preparation meets opportunity. And I have been working and preparing and putting in the hours and the sweat and the tears, lots and lots and lots of tears to get to do the things that I am working on. I think I have on my desk, I have every audition in a year that I've done
Bring
so
out
that
the binder.
I
Bring
will
out the
bring up the
binder.
binder.
Bring
All
it
right.
out.
So here's one of the binders. So this is my commercial binder.
For anybody who's listening and can't see the video, this binder, it's like a
It's huge.
3-inch thick
It's
binder,
Yeah. Yeah.
4-inch thick binder. It's
Yeah.
huge.
I also love
And
that
it's
you print
full.
it out because a lot of actors just put it in a spreadsheet, but I feel like
Yeah.
the tangible nature of it, like you can actually
I
see,
have
oh,
I
the
have
work.
both. And the reason I have the printout is because when I'm doing my auditions, I do like having the paper in front of me. What's the synopsis? What's my character? Even for commercial, that's my commercial binder, but my theatrical binder, I make notes to myself and I do character prep, even for a commercial where I know that my husband laughs. There are many commercials where you're not asked to do dialogue. You're not a spokesperson. You're not coming up going, "Hey, I'm going to be the next Flo." You literally get an audition that says, "We want you to stare at the camera for 3 seconds. Give us a smile, no teeth. Give us a smile with teeth. Give us warm." My favorite one to date was, "We would like to see warm joy, and then take a moment and give us warm pride." Wait, what? Well, okay, warm joy and warm pride. Those are my two choices. And I had to basically do this, no dialogue. That's it. That was my audition. So I have to sit down and I have to say to myself, well, what does that even look like? I've got 2 kids. What would be a moment of warm joy? Not exhilarated joy, not just straight up joy, but warm joy. Warm pride was easier. So I make notes. I do this. It also gives me an opportunity to say, I did that. Now, I don't get all of those jobs. I surely don't get all those jobs, but there are a lot that I do. And it helps me appreciate how hard I had to work for the handful of jobs I got. Same thing with vertical. I have a 3-inch binder of theatricals. I audition for television shows. I audition for indie films. I audition for big films. And I audition a lot for verticals. So I go through and I write down my notes. I write down my character thoughts. I write down clothing, So I work really hard for each and every single thing I do. And then when I get the job, if you thought I worked hard for the audition, I show up with a smile on my face and I don't care how long the hours are. I don't care how awful I think the outfits are or ill-fitting the wardrobe is. I don't care if they put me in a wig. I don't care if I look ridiculous. If I pass a mirror and go, oh, holy crap. All right, let's put that out into the world. And I joke, my husband will say, well, you look good for the award ceremonies. You look good for the screening. I look good for my husband. I look good for my images with my family. I don't care what I look like when I'm working as an actress. And I bring to the table everything I've ever done and prepared for. So luck is just that the right director or the right casting director pulled me in because my manager thought I should be submitted for that. Then it's the director says, yes, I would like to work with this woman. And then sometimes it's the client. With verticals, it's not just the director. the client has to like me too. So yes, I was lucky in that all of the fates came together that I was that person, but I never think of it as glib or flip. And maybe this person didn't mean it like that, but I never think I'm lucky. I think I was just fortunate to be the right person for that particular job. And then I go into it going, oh man, I hope I can deliver what they want. And then and every minute, every moment, I'm listening. I'm hearing about the camera turnarounds. I'm listening and in China, that was challenging. And at one point, the DP came over to me and he said, you speak Chinese? And I said, no, but I speak camera angles. And I am never not listening to hear what I think the next setup is. Okay, where am I going to be? I'm never not working when I'm working. That's critically important to me. I'm not off looking at my phone. I'm not off checking out crafty table, mostly because the pants need to fit. That's the thing. But I just am never not working. And that's important to me. So your statement means a lot to me because it is what I base my reputation and who I am as a person and how I make my way in the world. That's critically important. So thank you for recognizing that and making the comment.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have so much respect for you, and you've been a person who has supported me through all of my pivots. And I
And
know that
pivots are important.
and I know that you're a person who's done a lot of pivots, and also you're a person who we were talking the other day about fearlessness.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it as I was writing our questions. And I was thinking about the times when the word fearlessness came to mind. And I remember times when I was in pivot and you were there and I was like, T, I don't know what to do. Like you'd give me advice, you'd support me through it. And I was thinking about it this morning. I was interviewing with a new client and I was so nervous. And I was like, just be fearless, like T. It's fine. Just be fearless. Figure it out. Like I want you to talk. I know fearlessness is a theme for you. So
It
can
is.
you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah. You know, I equate it. I tell people I am fearless, but it doesn't mean I'm not frightened. There are things that I absolutely am. I'm frightened that I'm not going to be able to learn as much as I need to know. I'm not going to be able to do the thing. And I once heard a man speak. This is probably 20, maybe 30 years ago. He was an author and he was speaking and he said he went into an animation company and interviewed for a job. And then he realized, well, I'm not the right person for this job, but he was already there. And they were asking him things like, can you do this? And he said, and I needed a job. And I just said, yes. He said, but he was taking copious notes. And that was on a Thursday or Friday. And then he went to the Los Angeles Library downtown and he stayed there from opening until closing. And then he took books home and he studied in a way he had never crammed before in his life, so that when he showed up on Monday, he knew just enough to be dangerous and he learned on the job. And I thought, well, one, that took some major like guts and how arrogant are you? But then I thought it's also really brilliant. And I've said over and over and over, I surround myself with people who are smarter than me, but I will never be the dumbest person in the room. And I will go and I will learn. And my God, the internet has been such a godsend because much like that man, I'd go to the library. When my son was diagnosed with autism, you've never met a person more frightened than that mother who got that diagnosis and thought, well, I've never done this before. And I went to the library because the internet was still kind of a baby. And I read until my eyes bled. And I learned as much as I could about everything I could about this neurological disorder. And as a result, I became very well versed in what was happening with my son. And I take that into everything I do. Yes, I'm a little bit afraid. Yes, I'm terribly nervous, but I am fearless in that I say, you know what? I'm doing this. And I also have a little bit of one of my favorite memes I've ever read was, underestimate me. That'll be fun. because I am not going to be the person with egg on her face. I'll learn as much as I can to bring as much of it as I can to the table. So I'm fearless in that I don't fully care what other people's opinion of me is not my business. I don't care if they think I'm not tall enough, thin enough, pretty enough, whatever the labels they want to put on me so that I can't do a job or a thing. All right, let me prove you wrong. And I think my fearlessness comes a little bit from that is I refuse to not try, and I can be afraid later. Let me just try. And I just have to go past it. And I do. I go headfirst into the buzzsaw on many occasions because it's like, well, all they can, like my husband says, honey, all they can do is tell you no. They can't eat you. All right, then let me try. Let me try.
That's incredible. I think there's so many things that we conjure up in our minds of like you just said, well, what are you afraid of? What are they going to do? And then when we really logically think about it, go, tell us no. You know, we sort of were this unknown thing that could happen. And I think too, also to your point of like, what are we actually afraid of? Because I think in many instances, we're actually maybe more afraid of what if this does go right? What if this person says yes? What if I get this job? Oh my God.
Yes.
Like, you know, I think that sometimes there is fear within that. And that's what keeps us sometimes, it's comfy to stay where we are.
It is so comfy to not risk everything that you think you know about you and your existence. And I hear like a lot of actresses that I know, they lose jobs because they don't want to say no to the birthday party, or they don't want to say, or they don't want to wear that outfit. There's also fear of literally being outside of your physical comfort zone because they're going to make you look different than you are. And you have to be prepared for that. And you have to be willing to say, I am okay with this. I will own whatever this is and whatever you've done to me. Yeah, I'm doing this. And you can't be that afraid. And to what you said, what are we really afraid of? That job in China. It's a very thin edge that I'm perched upon. If I don't get it, I'm afraid of failure. Oh, man, I came this far and I didn't get it. But on the other side of that was, what if I do get this job? I got to make plans now for someone to watch my animals. I have to be on an airplane for 20 plus hours. And I don't even know the last time I did something even that adventurous. And then I'm going someplace where I do not speak the language and the success was just as scary, really, as the failure. They both had equal weight. And then when it was all said and done, I sat in the car with my son driving me home going, I can't believe I was just in China, because that happened. I was so busy, I almost didn't really get to appreciate, what had happened. But both were frightening, both. But you just say yes. As my husband says, say yes to the dress. Let them tell you no. Just say yes, try. Okay, here we are. I did it.
You're saying all this, T, and it's, making me like, we really have to, I think, remind ourselves constantly. I don't know if you have to, of like, why am I doing this? Like, what is, through all of this, what is the thing for you that keeps you coming back to this? Because at the end of the day, you can't care about what other people think, and you can't care about if someone tells you no. It's all just opinions.
Yes.
What's the thing that keeps you coming back? Because I think all artists have it.
What drives me is, one, it's multi-pronged. One is you're only as good as your next job. And my husband will tell you that about day 2 after I come off a project, I am despondent. Well, now what am I going to do? I don't have anything on the books. I can't stand that sensation. Busy is my favorite gear. The other thing is, there is something, I love people and I love the human experience. One of my closest friends made me a necklace that says it's about the story. Every moment I am awake, every heartbeat I have is about a story. It's about learning someone else's story. And I get that opportunity when I'm on set. whether I'm in front of the camera or behind the camera, everyone who is there, from the person doing crafty to the person who's directing, I kind of want to know their story. Who are you? Why are you here? You're fascinating. You know, how far did you drive today? I love the stories. I think at the top of the mountain, the thing that drives me is I like inhabiting other characters. I like doing the thing that elicits either a laugh or an emotional response, or even if it's a negative response. I helped do that through the huge organism that is a production. From the person who conceptualized, the person who wrote the script and came up with the dialogue, to the person who did the set design and saw that writer's image in their heart, in their eyes, the person who, you know, directs it because this is what he hears. And it's amazing to me when you get a good director who really likes the material, even in a vertical, man. My last director was a master of pulling out the meaning behind the words, and it was a joy to be his vessel, and all of these other people. Telling the story, and again, changing someone's heart or mind about something. If I can be a part of that, I want to do that. I am maybe not the person to get up at a podium and tell someone, hey, I'm going to give you my beliefs. I'm going to give you my opinions. I don't know that that is where I see myself, but if I can do that through a character, even if it's those few moments in that crazy commercial, expressing warm joy and warm pride, and someone watches that commercial, even that story. In fact, I told someone one of my favorite commercials many, many years ago. They called me and I was at home and I was crying and they go, what's happening? And I go, someone's grandpa is working at McDonald's. It was a 30-second commercial. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the story was that someone's grandpa got a job working at McDonald's, and it wrecked me. And I thought, that is the beauty of storytelling, whether it's a short, tiny snippet, if it's a meme on Instagram, I got to be a part of that story. And so that's what drives me, is the human condition and everyone's experience, because everyone is different. I told my kids when I was little, I never understood race being an issue or color, because if you've ever peeled away your skin, you know what we are underneath? We're all little, pink planets. We're these very easy to destroy pink planets. And we bring that every day. And we all are basically the same with some differences. And isn't that the best story ever?
Speaking of story, I want to talk a little bit more about your story getting to the point where you are today. So
yeah,
you've been in the arts since you were a kid, and you play multiple instruments.
I do.
You've taken acting classes, singing, and you've taught classes.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you thought, this isn't just like a hobby, this is who I am, this is who I want to be?
Yeah. As a child, I have sort of a very, like many, I'm not special, but I have a very complicated story. I was adopted into a family that I was kind of a black market baby. I was paid for, a private adoption. And then they were divorced, that couple, by the time I was a year and a half old. She went and remarried, and theirs was a very tumultuous, insane relationship. And my adopted mother's husband had a sister that went, oh, we'll take the baby. You don't need a baby. And she became involved in my life from the time I was 2. And I used to go visit them every summer vacation, winter vacation, Easter vacation, sometimes on weekends, because my grandpa was also part of that time in my life. And I started playing piano at 3. I went into a mall and they were selling an organ called the Optagon. And I went up and I knew just a little bit about music, and I started playing it, and a crowd gathered around me, and I thought at 3, well, this was fun. And then I started taking piano lessons, and then I started singing. And then when I went to visit those relatives in LA every summer vacation, winter vacation, they were busy and they didn't always have time for me. So they took me to the Lee Strasberg Institute, and they had a youth program, and they put me in classes, and it was very intense. But it was then that I thought, people do this for more than just gathering the crowd at the mall around the Octagon, but I like the way this feels. And then I went to the High School of Performing Arts. It was a place called the Hollywood Professional School, which is no longer. And after that came LOXA, but this is before there was such a thing. We were the sister school to the one in New York. And I took music, I continued music, voice lessons, acting, dance. And then I studied with private teachers. I studied opera and was told that I was a lyric soprano. I should be doing that. Well, that's very competitive, but I started doing session work while I was still in high school, commercials, songwriters demos, publishing demos, etc. And then I got just enough in my life where like I said, I earned enough money to have ramen in my fridge or in my cabinets. And I thought, oh, I'd like to do something else. And then I got into production, animation production. And then we pivoted to do some television, game show type stuff and a pilot for a series. And then that company ultimately closed, and I was the licensing person before we ended, and that was amazing. And again, I learned everything I could so that I could be part of the licensing team. And then, I don't know, production. I love organization. And again, the story that comes from being organized. And production really, really, really spoke to me. And I think that's why as an actress, I'm listening to everything production wise. So I did that. And then I had my daughter, and I was playing piano here at home. I'd stopped working just literally a couple of months before. And a neighbor came by and knocked on the door and said, "Is that you playing?" And I said, "Yes." She goes, "Will you teach my daughters?" And I go, "Well, I'm not really a teacher." And she goes, "Well, that's okay. You know how to play." And I said, "Well, yes." She goes, "Well, you should be able to tell them what you know." Okay. So I started with 2 piano students. And again, it was the kind of thing where I went down to the library and I thought, okay, how do I do this? How do I structure this? I know how to teach. I know how to make music interesting. I know how to convey my knowledge, but how do I do that for a child? And then over a 20-year span, I worked with kids as their piano coach. I told every parent I know, hey, listen, I'm not making a conservatory student out of your child. You need to hear my words. I can teach them Beethoven. I can teach them. I play classical. But what I will promise is that I can give your child a love and appreciation of music. But if you want conservatory kids, and you want kids that are going to go on to Carnegie Hall, good night and good luck. I'm not your person. And I had a really amazing 20 years of working with these kids, everything from piano to guitar. That's my other favorite story. I had a mom go, "Can you play guitar?" And I said, "Well, yeah, rudimentary guitar." And she's like, "Can you teach my son?" And I said, No, I'm not that good of a guitarist. I played a lot of things. I played violin, I played flute, I played a lot of instruments. I'm not a guitar teacher." And she's like, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay for you to go to guitar lessons. And as long as you are 2 lessons ahead of my son, you're his teacher." And I thought, well, why don't you just take him to the guitar teacher and not me? And she says, "Well, we like you." And it's like, that's a heck of a testimony. So I taught that and musical theater and acting. But so I taught kids for 20 years, music, piano, guitar. I worked with them in musical theater and then with acting. And then I was doing musical theater myself. I did a lot of shows. I did Hairspray where I was Velma Von Tussle. I did Footloose. I did some Annie being a Hannigan. I did Urinetown the Musical where I was Pennywise, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. As I was doing theater, I got involved in an immersive theater production. And one of my favorite actresses was a woman in her 80s, her early 80s. And she says, "Who's representing you, darling?" And I said, "Nobody." She's like, "You're coming with me to meet my agent." Who does that? Nobody does that. People in Hollywood. I asked somebody once, "Hey, who's your husband's representative?" And I know that she wasn't going to share that. It's like, we're not going after the same jobs. I'm curious. I can look him up on IMDb, you know. People don't do that. And yet she was so gracious and giving. And that was another big lesson for me, is that I know this inherently, but she was the embodiment of there's room for everybody at the table. And I try to do the same now as an actress. If people want to know anything about what I do, who reps me, what classes, what I'm involved in, come on, that's the caffeinated part of me. I say, come, let's go to coffee or tea, and I'll tell you everything you want to know, because there's room for everybody at the table.
I want to talk about you've had so many accomplishments. You were so successful. You're an actress, you're a writer, you're a director, you're a producer, a radio personality, a vocalist, a musician. I mean, you are multi-hyphenated.
And I get bored easily. I get bored easily because even when I'm in between things, I am always working on something, a new production, a new whatever. Yeah. I do get bored easily, but
how did
successes.
How did you not, I guess you answered my question, which is like, how did you not pick one lane? Because I think so many people, you and I were talking about this, 6 months ago? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, to be super blunt and honest. And I was like, you know, a lot of people are asking me, what is my next career step?
Yeah.
What, you know, like, who are you working for? You should apply for this. You should apply for that. And
you know, I can tell you, Jess, that if you look at any career of some of the greatest men in Hollywood, nobody told them to pick a lane. One of our actors went on to become a president. And I have noticed in my long life that nobody ever tells the men, oh, you were an actor and you did this. Now you want to produce. Well, you can't do that. Yeah, but he's doing it. You produced and you were an actor and now you want to direct. Well, you can't do that. Nobody told him that. He's doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to move on and be a teacher or a speaker or go on tour to tell people what you've done? Well, you can't do that. Nobody told him that.
Well,
and
I
feel like I wasn't going to be that.
Yeah. And I was so grateful for that you passed down that advice to me. And the other thing that you advised me was how hard it is for so many people that are not in this industry to understand what gig work is like.
No. And they want stability and they want you to have the 401k. And I have a very, very dear friend. She and her husband are in the industry and in different capacities for decades upon decades. And that is for them too. They had relatives who were like, no, I don't know. I think you should do this, that, and the other. I feel like the gig mentality is the closest I can give it to some people. It's like if you're a salesman and you're a really good salesman, and then you decide you don't want to sell widgets anymore because they're pennies on the dollar. And you decide, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I'll try selling clothing. And that's great. But now you're only making a little more money. And then you decide, you know what? I'm going to become a realtor, because I can make really big money on a house. Yeah, but how many houses do you sell in a year? Yet there's tremendous respect for someone who's in the realty game. Okay, great. But I feel like gig mentality is like being a salesman. And ultimately, I tell people, well, you don't look sideways at the person who sold you your house, do you? They don't do that every day. They don't do that every week. They don't do that even sometimes every month. I do what I do because I love it. And yeah, eventually I'll have another project and then I'll have another project. And I'm always, always willing. I'm also not the actress, by the way. I know I have other peers who will say things like, no, I'll only do a co-star or starring role. I worked too hard to do anything less than that. I'm like, nah, not me. I love what I do. And I will be the non-talking woman in the commercial. And I will be the day player who comes in and says 2 lines and changes everyone's life. I'm just happy to be there. I'm happy to be a new character. And I'm not always going to sell a house. Maybe today I sell a condo. So it is very hard. But this is also paramount to the concept that you don't live your life to please other people. You can't. You just can't. Because you're always going to let them down. But when you go to bed at night and you put your head on the pillow whether someone's there or not. You're about to close your eyes and you have to ask yourself, was I a good person? Did I try to make somebody's life happier or better today? Did I smile at the person who checked out my groceries? Did I wish them the best day ever? And was I as successful as I can be in the endeavors I was able to take on today? Even though I might have missed some of the, I didn't get everything done. Yeah, but I got a lot done. And I feel good about that. That's it. You're done. You're spending the next, hopefully, 8 hours, 4 hours, whatever you get, with you, not them. The sooner you learn to turn the volume down on other people's opinions, and they're allowed to have them. You know, Mel Robbins says it best, you know, let them, but then you, what do you do with that? Yeah, you want to have an opinion about me? Go ahead, but I'm kind of going to tune you out. You don't need to tell them that, but you need to tell yourself it doesn't matter what they think, because someday it's not going to be the pillow on my bed. It'll be the pillow in a casket. And will I have lived my life for their opinion? You cannot do that. So start with your pillow and tell yourself, I feel good about who I was today, what I did, and I'm going to face tomorrow with such enthusiasm and maybe a second cup of coffee and maybe talk to my friends who get me. That's the other thing. You've got to have a support system, whether that's your girlfriends, your partner, your therapist, your barista. If somebody in your life supports you and what you do, seek them out. I'm having kind of a crappy day. I don't really know how to get past this feeling. You know what? I love you and I think you're great and I think you're perfect and you just do you, boo-boo. And maybe you look at that 5 times in a day and go, somebody believes in me. I got to believe in myself as much as they believe in me. And I think that's important.
That's so important. This is like so wild to me to think about all of this, because I think in our society, there are so many of these like norms of, well, you have to do the safe thing or the sure thing. And we saw unfortunately during the pandemic, people who were at jobs for 10, 20, 30 years, they were let go. You know, Jim Carrey says in this sort of like famous speech, I don't know if you guys have heard it, where he says, I guess his father wanted to be a comedian. And he said, well, he could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. So he made the choice to be an accountant. And then when Jim was 12 years old, he was let go from that job. And he told Jim, you know, and so their family had to do whatever they needed to do to survive. And obviously we know where Jim Carrey ended up, but it's do the thing that makes you happy, because there is no sure thing, right? So the only sure thing is to make yourself happy and fulfilled.
And do the thing that makes you happy, but you have to be really brutally honest with yourself. Are you good at the thing that makes you happy?
That's true.
Are you willing to do the work to be better at the thing that makes you happy? Are you willing to sacrifice and eat the cheap food until you are able to pay for something better to do the thing that makes you happy? Are you willing to sacrifice the birthday parties, the anniversaries, the vacations, the whatever it is, fill in the blank, that everyone's pressuring you to do so that you can do the thing that makes you happy? Because if you do the thing that everyone else expects of you and you go to the birthday party, you do the vacation, it's like you miss the opportunity to do a thing that makes you happy. If you are not willing to sacrifice to, you know, eat scraps or go hungry, then no, you're not doing the thing that makes you happy, because there's not a lot of money in the thing that I think sometimes you hear the phrase, do what you love and the money will follow. Yeah, somebody left out a really big chapter about do what you love, do it every day until your fingers bleed. It's like playing guitar. Guitar is not an easy instrument. No instrument is easy, but guitar in particular, as far as I am concerned, is a torture device, because you have to play for at least a month of calluses and bleeding before you can play guitar. It's hard. And I think that is a perfect metaphor for do what you love and the money will follow. Be prepared, man, for the rest of that drama that's going to follow.
And I think that was beautiful, T. Everything that you just said right now was beautiful, and I'm just kind of simmering on it. And And I'm
Aw.
wondering, before we wrap, I just want to know, are there any projects that are upcoming for you that you want to share, or anything that you're really excited about with our industry right now?
As far as projects, I heard someone very wise, wiser than me and half my age, say, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what project I'm working on in case it doesn't happen. So I do have a couple of irons in the fire of projects that or personal projects that I'm working on. So the better question to answer is, what am I excited about for our industry? I am excited about the idea that the industry is being challenged to open its mind. I'm excited about the stories that need to be told that are maybe just now being written because of what's happening in our world all around us. This is where things happen, where hearts are and minds are changed through the stories more than everything else we could possibly do. I'm excited about the songs that are going to be written by people who are cracked open raw from a lot of things that have occurred. I'm excited about the collaborations that are going to happen for people who didn't think they'd be working together, but they're going to come together to tell the stories that need to be told. I'm really excited about certain groups of people that I am seeing more and more of their stories rising to the top, and I'm thrilled for that. So I think I'm excited I know there's a lot to be afraid of, but all right, great. We're always going to be afraid because fear sells, but there's also a lot to look forward to.
On that note, thank you so much, T, for being on our podcast today.
Thank you,
We
T.
Thank
Where
you
appreciate
can
for
your
it.
people find you? Are you on Instagram, your website? Like,
Yeah,
where can people connect with you?
I'm on Instagram, but the fastest way to find me, because my name is a typo, is my website, which is afternoon tea, just the letter, not the drink, not the car, just tea, afternoontea.co.
fantastic. Thank you so much, T. We appreciate you being
Thank you,
on the
ladies.
podcast today.
Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
All right, that's the show for today. But before we switch back, we want to remind you,
Subscribe to the pod. Very important. We say this again. Subscribe, please. It helps us a lot. And you're going to be the first to know about new episodes and all of the things. Follow us on social and get on our mailing list.
thanks for listening to Switching 2. It's hosted and edited by Heather Kate Duncan and Jess Boyer. Original music by Top Flow, courtesy of the Pixabay royalty-free music library. Recorded on location in Los Angeles, California. Follow us on social at Switching2Pod.
Show notes and transcripts can be found at switching2pod.com.